What was some of the responses about that that didn't work? And was there any positive things they said?
Well, I wouldn't really say it was super positive. Well, let me go back on that. So I brought it up to Mike and then obviously brought it up to the kids. Mike is very one Mike is very self-centered, even though he thinks he's not. So he will like if he is in the office closes at 5. He technically says he has to stay there till 6. I don't know. I don't believe it. I mean, it's been 14 years. I still don't believe it. Nobody else follows that protocol. It's what he does, whatever. But he doesn't come home till maybe 7:30. And he was a half hour away. He got to this closer office finally. I think I told you about that. That he had been, yeah. But he still doesn't come home. And he doesn't tell me, like, I don't know how many times over 21 years I've said, like, after 6 o'clock, tell me what time you're coming home. Like, so I know when you're coming home. But so when I brought it up, he was like, well, I can help you pick them up some days. And he tried to do that yesterday. He did that yesterday because I was doing this training. And what I didn't love about that is that we bring my daughter's friend home every day because that mom works until 5 and can't get away, supposedly. That's not for me to really determine, but she's asked and I said, fine, it's not really out of the way. It adds like 5 minutes. But so Mike comes home and drops them off yesterday and he had to go to the bathroom. So he came in and that means he didn't drop the kid off first because for him, it would be drop these kids off and then go drop her off because she's closer to his office, the friend. So somewhere from him using the restroom and him getting back in the car, the friend stayed here, which she's not super great. She's not a bad kid. But I'm in the middle of trying to do this training and then I've got a couple hours after. And the fact is he just left her. He didn't ask me if it was okay. He didn't do anything. So he does a favor, but then it almost always ends up not working in my favor. He says he'll try. They don't love the idea because the bus, it's a bus. There's the kids, the rough kids take the bus. They're not great. And I get that. They do get home at the same time. And Morgan took it 2 years ago when I worked for Blue Cross because I couldn't get away. They just I didn't push it and just sort of said, okay, well, I would like to be done work earlier and picking you up means that I can't be. And their response was, well, dad's not home before 7 anyway, so we don't do anything as a family. That was their response.
Ouch.
So I just let it be for now. It's not such a big deal. I just left it for the 7. That's better than 9. I'm just trying to move things along.
Right.
And then they were home all week because they were literally home all week because of the ice. So last week. So everything in Texas was closed.
Right.
So it really wasn't an issue. And then he picked them up yesterday. And then I'll pick them up today. And my mom will pick them up Wednesday. She always picks them up on Wednesday now that she's better. She's feeling better. She's actually got a doctor's appointment today to make sure. But so
does she just pick them up and then take them to the house, or she keeps them until you get done?
No, she takes them home. I mean, she would take them to her house, or her house is a couple miles away. It adds time later on, and there's no need to. They're not bad once they're home. They're easy. It's just going and taking that time. And I honestly don't think they conceptualize and realize how impactful it is that if I get 1 hour I have to take the 15 minutes before they get out of school, wait in the line for 15 minutes, then 15 minutes home, and then I maybe have 15 minutes to like do something before I get back on the phone.
Right.
I don't think they realize that. But that was the one thing. I had the conversation. I didn't really push it. They seemed to be annoyed by it because in their mind, all I do is work. And by not picking them up, I'm prioritizing work over them. That's what the takeaway I get from that.
Even though at the end, you would be able to spend more time straight through because you're done by an earlier time.
Right.
Okay.
Again, I don't think it matters to them. They're doing homework, X, Y, and Z. The after 7 really, gets on everybody's nerves. One, they can't really be free in their own house and, silly and loud.
Right.
So, but that I left it there. I did bring it up. I brought it up to Mike. Mike said he would try to help. Mike is going through his own stuff. He is very like rigid and he's hard to change. And the fact that I'm changing a lot makes it really hard for him because it's something very different for him. Whereas before he made the most money, I just worked at the hospital and got out at 5 o'clock. It's not a competition thing, but I think he has a hard time recognizing that maybe his time is less of a priority sometimes than my time. Because I've always done everything.
You made more money than him last year?
Yeah. By $100,000 more than him.
And truthfully and honestly, that's probably bugging the shit out of him, even if he said it isn't, because he's a male and it's an ego thing, even if they're the best of people. It's like their instinct, their gut instinct, is to be the provider and take care.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you had the conversation, and maybe down the road you can go back to it, or maybe you could tell them, if they're, I think they're old enough to understand, at least the 2 older ones, that in order for me to stop and do this is what happens, and this is what I go through in order to get back to work to finish it. So there's a little more realization that comes, and maybe that's not a conversation that happens, but at least I think the good thing here, if we have any good to take away, is that you did go to them and talk to them and give them the opportunity to be a part of a solution.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's February, in a month, it's spring break. We're going on a trip. We come back, we're clearing to April. School gets out here in May. I think for me, going to the sucking things up just to 7 and not later than that in itself will be a good thing. And I will feel like I have hours back of my life. And I can deal with the bus thing next year when all 3 of them go to the same school again.
There you go. So good things to look forward to. So what I want you to do in terms of the anxiety that's provoked from you, cutting off your schedule and telling people no, I want to reframe that to where you're not telling them no. All you're doing is saying that my hours are no longer this. These are my hours, and we'll do whatever we can do to find something in these hours that I am available that will work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And just shift and reframe every time that comes to your mind. And that way, it'll become easier and easier and easier for you to go, okay, I'm done by 7 o'clock, period.
Yeah.
In a discussion. Okay. Now I'm not saying that occasionally, if something comes up or whatever, that you have to do that, that's fine. But the norm is my hours are now, this is what they are. So if those are my hours, there's no reason for me to be anxious about anything, because
Right.
I'm serving the people through these hours, what I have available, so. Okay. Anything else on any of the homework or,
No, I mean, prioritizing taking care of me.
Mhm.
I've been wanting to go to the again, it was crappy weather, so we couldn't really do anything, but I've been wanting to go to the gym, but not enough to not want to rest. And so I've made that choice, which is also a tough choice for me to say not to do this and to just rest. And like, you can't run on 4 hours of sleep. Like, that's not healthy.
Okay.
Good.
So did you rest this week?
Yeah, I haven't run in over a week now, but I don't feel bad.
Okay. So resting, what does resting to you mean, first of all?
Resting to me is like not having to do something. Like, when I come out of here, if it's dinner time, like right at those times, if I'm making dinner and then I put the kids to sleep and I do this and I do that, I do.
Mhm.
And so for me, it is about excuse me, not having to do anything.
Mhm.
So that's what I like. Last night I got done work. I had the training till 5. I did 2 clients till 7. That was good. And then I made dinner, and then I changed over some laundry for kids stuff that needed to be washed. And then Mike was like, "You're coming to the gym, right?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "I knew you were going to say no." And I'm like, "I just don't. I've been sitting in training all day, focusing. I just made dinner and I'm tired and I don't want to go." And that was fine. It was fine. But I'm like, I will be asleep when you get home. That's what's going to happen.
Mhm.
And that was it. So that's what resting is to me, is not responding to messages or checking my email or doing anything. It's, I don't know where my phone is and I'm just sitting on the couch or laying down with the dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Couple questions, and you can tell me if you don't want to go here, it's fine, Melissa, but you're the 12-year-old. Tell me her name.
Morgan.
Morgan. Does Morgan do anything around the house to help in terms of like changing laundry? She's laughing, cooking, or anything? Okay. No.
That's that no. And we've tried and we challenge, and she's been in counseling, and she is, oh my gosh, she is her father and my father and my sister all rolled into one, which is just all the terrible attitude and shutting down and overly emotional and anxious. And so she just sort of like freaks out if we ask her. Like, I got her to clean her room last week just by saying, this was, I think it was Tuesday after we met or something like that. Like, your room's not clean. I'm not letting you, like, your room needs to be clean or your friend's not coming over.
Mhm.
But no, she doesn't do other things. I've been looking at things like doing cooking classes with her or something to like get her to have some skills and want to. But she's very helpless. She will not do unless it gets done. And I mean, I've waited and I've challenged, and it won't happen. She's the mindset, if I gotta wake her up. She's terrible at waking up in the morning. And if it's past, it's like past 6:15, and I like, let's say I did have her like a long night the night before and I'm tired and I could barely wake up, like, it's her fault. It's my fault she's late because I didn't wake her up and I should have woke up to wake her up. And her dad is that way. He is that way.
Does she, is there anything that she does well or she's interested in?
Well, she's a great artist. She got into an art school and got anxious and bailed out. But she's been asked to be in a super portfolio arc for next year, and she is doing that. I believe she signed up for that. But so she's good at like designing and organizing, and she'll do those things, but it's intermittent. And I'm challenging her a lot, you know, because obviously just like trying to be a more structured, again, why I want to be done working and around is that we're not eating dinner at 9 p.m. and trying to figure it out. And we're just scrambling to get through the days. Like, I don't want that. I didn't
Right.
have that growing up. And so she's very good at a lot of things. She loses motivation on a lot of things.
Okay.
Just
What
good.
do you see that motivates her?
Well, she says it's not her phone, but it's her phone when I take it away. She does well with praise, but I think sometimes she really is a challenge. She's a hormonal teenage girl with self-esteem issues because she's bigger like me, and she's the same size as me, and she's 12, height and weight.
Oh, wow, she's tall.
Yeah, her dad's like 6'3", so she just struggles a lot with that. I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. Okay, well, because it would be really, it would be so ideal if we could pull them into having a few things in the house that they're responsible for.
We've done really good with that in the past. Again, it's sticking with it. And when I say sticking with it, it's me, because Mike could follow up and get them to do it, but he's just so disengaged when he comes home from his job. And we talk a lot about that, like, but that if I'm not available, then it doesn't happen. And then I'm like making up for it. So they will load and unload the dishwasher. Morgan does know how to do her laundry if she so needed to. And if it was empty, she would start it. And then if I ask one of them to empty the trash bag and take it out, they will. One knows how to mop and sweep. So they know how to do things.
Okay.
And it has to be, I have to get my schedule in place to be able to get them to do something, because I can't just say do it and then not be present, at
Right.
least at first. So I know where you're going to, like, I'm not doing everything all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I can't be all things to all people all the time.
Right.
I know that. But I have to be present to make that
Sure.
happen.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. Well, and in addition, not only to the advantage of you not having to do anything, but it's teaching them the responsibility. So when they become, you know, an adult, they can go out and do their own life. You know, I have two boys, and by the time they learned how to step up on a stool and jump to turn on the washer, we were teaching them both inside stuff and then outside stuff. So maybe what we can do is, as we are working on you and stuff, we can throw in little here some ideas that I have that may help in that area. And maybe we look at, you know, when we free up one certain day or night, not completely, but at the evening, you know, then we focus on that. And I have some wheels turning, as you're saying, she's artistic and that kind of thing. So okay, so let's go back to you. In terms of getting some structure happening, I think that what I would like to do, so you already did your schedule and you put that in Simple Practice. Evelyn knows now what to do, and I told her, you know, if something changes with that, let me know. It's part of the accountability. And I said, I don't think it's going to, but I said, just let me know. I would like to, there's a few things on the what needs to be done that I think we could knock off real quick. One of the things you said is and I want you to clarify for this to me, group contacts and EFTs for the new EIN for the group practice versus solo. So I get the new EIN. Explain to me group contacts and EFTs.
So the so I have contracts, it might say contacts, maybe contracts is what it should say. I have
Oh,
individual,
contracts.
yeah, I have individual contracts, and to make them a group to be able to add people, I have to then have group contracts. When I wrote that, I hadn't taken steps to do that, but that is happening. And so because of that, the new EIN, I had to get a new bank account, and all of my EFTs are set up under my other bank account. And it's hard to do with existing contracts, like to get everything updated. But I believe it's either happened, some are happened, some are happening.
Okay,
So basically, I was, solo practice. To go to a group practice, you have to have group contracts, right? Or have the ability to add people to your current credentialing so that they can bill to the insurance.
okay. Okay, I got it. So that's not major priority, right, in the first month or so, as we tick off things, I don't think. As we talk, that may change. What I want to do is look at prioritizing, that list that you said under there, of what needs to get done, so we can start calendaring out dates and putting it all there for you to get done. All right, the next one was grow people under me, hire. Okay, so we know that the first one has to get done before we can really bring on, but you can have that happening while you're doing it. Keeping up with my notes and paperwork, skipping her down. Okay, that one I think we've got under control as of at the moment. So I'm going to check that one. Okay, to keep the practice income as it was, to feel confident and strong and control moving forward. Confident about. Okay, let's talk about how you're doing with notes and paperwork.
I am keeping up with everything from when we talked.
Okay.
Yeah, doing them then that night, which having the time that I wasn't, that I was spending working has been helpful. And I had been using just the templates in Simple Practice, which are fine, but then obviously I got the new templates from you for the notes and everything. So it's like building, before it can copy load from the past one, and I just update things.
Yeah.
So it's been time consuming in that way,
Okay.
but not terrible. And obviously if I do that now, it'll keep going forward. So
Right. Yeah, that part is temporary once you build that up.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, that's been better. Yeah. I still have to go back and do a whole lot of notes, which I have notes. It's just doing them, copying and pasting everything, because I do like writing, because I write notes. I still don't type while I'm
Okay.
talking to people. I just have a hard time doing that. I feel like it's dismissive in a sense, and I could explain it, but I just don't. So
But are you writing well on the call or afterwards?
just jotting small things down on a post-it note in front of me, and yeah, so I'm not like looking down and writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I can get that done, and I just have to make time to go back, but right now my focus is just focusing on making sure everything that I'm doing forward from here is just done. So,
Okay, got it. All right, so you feel that is pretty much under control, you're just building the momentum, okay. So then maybe right now, because these are just the same things that you put under the question of, you know, what needs to be done. And I think that maybe if we do go back up to the group contracts and the EIN and that, so what would be your goal to get those two things, the group contracts and EFTs, situated and taken care of? Do you see like what needs to be done? How much time do you believe it will potentially take? You know, what's involved?
yeah, I mean, I sort of did that and scheduled this with you. Well, that first, the call and all at the same time. So I already, made pay. I had to pay the credentialing company. I use a credentialing company. So I have them doing the contracts, and they have already updated one of my contracts with, I think, Cigna to group. And she's working on all the other ones. So, but it can take, 45 business days. So we're talking 2 months, which is why it's on my mind, because if I'm not ready to take people on, how can I take people on? Right. So that's why it was number one. And I just, at some point, I have to close out the current bank account, because I need everything to be funneling in for my bookkeeping, for my tax, stuff, to the right bank account for the right, EIN. I know I can track expenses and, make note of them, but I want it all in just one place where I'm not having to think about it. And I got the bank account set up. I ordered the checks came, and now the billing people are working on getting that all updated for me. So I have taken everything that I can do, I have already done. And the anxiety that I had about that, other than just being patient and waiting for and to make sure that it happens and that it doesn't get messed up and payments stop altogether, right? That's my worst fear. Is that that's where, when you think about your worry, that's where my worry goes, is like, oh, I made this change and now nothing's going to come in and everything's going to fall apart. I mean, that's ultimately just where my head goes, right? It's like, okay, you're doing this, you're going to do this one thing, and it's going to mess up what you already had, and it's all going to come crumbling down. That thought is not as present as it was. Actually, what really not until I just talked it through with you. But while I was just waiting to like figure it all out, and it was all just jumbled in my head, and I didn't know how to do it and how to work through it. And it was all like, I just couldn't pull it out piece by piece, but I did. And so I'm just waiting right now.
Okay, so you're in the stages of the waiting. So you've done everything you can possibly do to this point, and then you're waiting for them. And then when they're done, what's next?
Yeah, I mean, that's to be ready to take somebody on, so that when I'm ready to do that, I can do that. I don't want to be delayed by a misstep of something that I could be doing or could have done.
Perfect. So then the next, after they do their part, then you feel that you would be ready to start looking at the possibility of actually bringing people on.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I think at that point, what we should do, since you're waiting for them, is let's take this time and let's start going through that process of what that looks like. Of, number one, what else have you done? Anything else to create a group practice in terms of, do you have policies, or do you have how things, are gonna fly? Do you have, do you
No.
know? Okay, so, couple questions for me. Have you talked with any legal aspects, especially for Texas, because it's different for every state, but there is one common thread in federal in terms of W-2 versus 1099?
I have my tax person. We haven't gotten to that point yet because right now this is the first year that I'm using a tax person and having a bookkeeping and all of that, since obviously the year just shot up. So, and she gave me the name of a lawyer, which a friend of mine that we're both doing sort of the same thing, gave me, and I just haven't reached out to them yet because I haven't gotten there. But you can do 1099 in Texas. Is that what you're at? Like,
Well, yeah, I'm kind of, you can do 1099 everywhere, but there are guidelines and restrictions on how you do that. And so the first step, I think, is what we need to do is determine what is the best scenario for you. Okay.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know the restrictions and regulations on what the federal stated a 1099 versus a W-2. So real quickly, and because we went in, we started late, do you have a couple more minutes to go? Okay. So when up until the very beginning of 2020, all of my people on staff were 1099s.
Okay.
And in the end of middle to end of 2019, the federals came in and said, okay, we're making some changes because it seems as though there are issues. So in order for you to have a 1099, to have your clinicians be a 1099, and I'm going to read this directly from the government website so I don't get it wrong. Okay. Second. Okay, this is from the IRS website, and it is the government entities for federal, state, local governments, blah, 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 versus 299. Okay, so the okay, so I'm just going to read this real quickly, and I can give you this link as well. A worker's role determines which information return as an entity would provide, meaning 1099 or W-2. Entities provide a form 1099 miscellaneous to independent contractors and a W-2 form to employees. See the article on the workers' classification for more information. However, there may be some instances where a worker may be serving as an independent contractor and an employee for the same entity. Example, Joe is a custodian who works for a county public school. The county views him as an employee and issues him a form W-2 for his services. He also has his own business that he owns and operates that provides snow plowing services on the nights and weekends. Any snow plowing services he performs for the county are separate and distinct from his services as the custodian. Therefore, the county would treat him as an independent contractor for his snowing plowing services. The county reports the income on the 1099 form, box B, non-employment compensation. So the classification, the difference is that generally you withhold and deposit income tax, Social Security, Medicare taxes, and from the wages to pay to an employee / W-2. You also must match the employer's portion of Social Security, blah, blah, the same thing, matching, okay? The determining whether a individual is providing services or an independent contractor. An independent contractor is, hold on. People such as doctors, dentists, veterinarians, lawyers, accountants, contractors, subcontractors, public stenographers, or auctioneers, or any independent trade or professional business in which they offer services to the general public, or generally independent contractors. So that means they have their own business, okay? However, with these people are, whether these people are independent contractors or employees depends upon the facts in each case. The general rule is that, an individual is an independent contractor if the payer has the right to control or direct the results only of the work and not how it will be done or what will be done. So in other words, to you, I'm an independent contractor. You've hired me to handle your phones, to coach, that kind of thing. The only thing that you could do is say that you are in control of the direct results. I'm happy with your results and the work that you do, the services you provide, and everything's great. But you can't tell me how to do things or when to do them or what will be done. You can tell me what you want, what you need, and then if we're a match, we work together. So having a 1099 clinicians on your team means that, number one, they have to have their own business as well, okay? Number two, that means that you can say, okay, in order for me to pay you, this is what I need to get from you, blah, 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 blah. You know, I will provide this and so on and so forth. And the results are that clients are getting served and they're happy and things are being completed. Okay, you're getting results. You can't tell them procedures, policies. You can't tell them when to work. You can't tell them basically anything about how or when or what will be done. So you have pretty much no control at all. It's like you say, I will refer clients to you, and this is the split, and this is what I need from you in order to pay you. That's kind of almost about how much control you'll have.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is determine, is that going to work for you? Because number one, you do want to keep in mind that even though that is how it works on your end between you and the clinician, the client still sees it as it is your group practice, True Counseling Services. Yeah. So they're going to come to you and they're going to complain and they're going to do whatever it is the clients do when they do it. Okay. Ultimately, it's your reputation. Ultimately, you know, you want people to do things the way that you would do them in your own practice as you're doing them, treat clients how they do, blah, 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 paperwork, notes, all of that, because these are, you know, clients being seen under True Counseling Services. They're not Jane's client under her practice. They're clients under True Counseling subbed out.
Right.
So you want to determine what is your breaking point of how much control do you want?
I mean, ultimately, I'm not against a 1099, but I've always had that same mindset as is, you just said, which is that I stayed by myself because I can control me for a long time, right? Until you realize I can't do this the way that I'm doing it for a lifetime, right?
Mhm.
So ideally, I would like, but that's a question, and you may or may not know the answer, but I can hire somebody under a W-2 as an hourly employee, like who per hour work, per session completed, right?
Yes,
Yeah, because I think that, I think that would be best for
yeah,
me.
because you, at that point, you hire somebody and you say, okay, if you're licensed, or let's say they're I'm an associate, I don't know what you call them in Texas, I think it's I can't remember. That before they're licensed, what do you call them?
Oh. Just uh, actually an LMS, I think they're just an LMSW. I'm
Okay.
just with the clinical, in. I would have to know that, as I didn't do mine, I did my my master's and my conditional clinical in Maine. So
Okay,
I was an LMSW CC conditional clinical.
got it, okay.
Yeah.
So, you can come in and you can say, typically you make more money as a group practitioner when you have, interns, associates, whatever you call them, that are not yet licensed than you do when you have licensed clinicians.
Yeah.
That's just the standard. So let's say that you're gonna bring in, and they could be, they could be on an upper level of their hours and pretty skilled and experienced, but still they have hours to go. But then that means that you have to provide supervision, whether you do it or the practice pays for it. But you can say, I'll start you at $35 an hour per session. And that includes clinical notes, okay? And then if there's any admin work, you would have a lower rate for those admin hours. But you can also most likely control how many you provide per month. Then if they're licensed, you can say, okay, if you bring them in licensed, or if they get licensed while they're with you, once that happens, you can start them out, $45 an hour, and then bring them up as they show that they're, doing whatever. If you do that, what we need to do is find out from either your bookkeeper or your accountant, what's the breaking point of having someone on staff, because when you have a W-2, you have to pay taxes, payroll taxes, okay? You're going to provide simple practice, which is an additional amount. You're going to provide, the phone availability. We'll see if we can do that without it being too expensive. For extensions, you're gonna, all these little different things add up. So what you need to do is find out what that number is, the breaking point of how many sessions per week or per month, either way you want to do it, do they need to do consistently to not only break even with the expenses, but create a profit. And I'm going to tell you right now off the top of my head, it's probably not going to be anything less than 10 or 12 sessions a week.
Right.
Okay. So if somebody comes on staff and they don't bring any clients with them, the thing that has to happen is you got to get them filled up as fast as you can. Okay. And then you have to know what that breaking point is. If your breaking point is 12 sessions, then you need to shoot for 15 to make a profit.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that all make sense?
Mm-hmm. I was a 1099 for this company called Able To, worst job ever. It was phone support for like elderly under like Medicare, Medicaid. But I had to do a minimum of 10 hours a week. So you're not wrong. It's probably about that. Like I had to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I left, I think I stayed there like 90 days.
So what I would say homework would be for this week, your action items is if you can do some research, first of all, of what are other group practices that have W-2s, what are they paying the interns hourly, and what are they paying licensed hourly? And then let's say okay, let's say that it's an intern. And you can even do things like how many hours does Texas require before you become licensed?
I think, well, 3,200.
Okay. So let's say that they come in and they only have like 900 hours. They're pretty green. Okay. So they're going to be with you for a while before you get that. So you can say, you know, from 0 to 1,500, you pay $30 an hour for interns. And from 1,500 to 32, you pay 35 per hour. Okay. But the other thing you're going to have to do, kind of an insert on your notes, is you're going to have to find this out for each state that you're going to hire in.
Yeah.
Are you going to hire in the several areas, which is actually could be to your advantage
Yeah.
in terms of getting people, but you are going to have there are conditions for you to be an employer from somebody from another state, even though you're licensed in that state. And I will get that information from my husband Raleigh, because we do it because we have remotes in Central and East Coast, and
Yeah.
so basically you have to play for a number, blah blah blah, and then you pay whatever taxes are for that state. Your highest one's probably going to be California, New York, Florida, those ones. Okay. So if you can start pulling some of those numbers, and you know, literally what I would do is start a spreadsheet, you know, put your state and do you know, all the things that you need to find out, and do a tab for each state, and find out, you know, what is the tax rate, payroll tax rate, what is you know, because like for sorry for stopping there for a second, maybe in California you pay the $30 and $35 an hour, but in Texas or in one of the states that is like maybe New Jersey isn't as expensive as California. So then maybe in that aspect, you start them out at 25 and 30. Okay. It may make it a little complicated to keep different things. So you may think, well, I would rather just start everybody out 30, 35, whatever it's going to be based on how many hours they are, to make it easier. Okay.
Mhm.
So you're going to find out what your breaking point is. Okay. And you're going to guesstimate, and then you need to check with an accountant in terms of, you know, all the actual legal numbers and everything. How many sessions? So if, let's say that you start them at $30 a session, okay, and if they did 15 sessions a week, that's 450 times 4 weeks, that's 1,800 a month. Now out of that 1,800, you got to figure out what is your cost. Okay, how much are the taxes? How much do I need to do for simple practice for all the expenditures,
Mhm.
and you know, the net, and then what is your profit? Okay, if it's, $100 for that clinician, then you're gonna go, well, that's a whole lot of work for $100, so I'm gonna need them to do at least, 18 to 20 sessions per week. So is that all making sense?
Hmm.
Okay. Do the same thing for the license, blah, 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 and then each state, because it can vary in terms of what the payroll costs are. I'm gonna venture to say your states like California, Florida, possibly Washington, DC. Those would probably be your top expensive states. And, maybe that's another thing you do is you Google, if there's a list of states in order from the most expensive to the least. Okay, and then at that point, we can decide what would make sense which state would make sense to target first. Because it could be that if we target the lower states first, then the expenses aren't going to be as much. You could start gaining more profit and then go to the other bigger states, that kind of thing. Okay?
Mhm.
Are you like glassed over?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Can I clarify anything?
No, I think I just have to process it in my head. And
Okay.
then I'm gonna put together questions
Mhm.
and then I'll send them to you in email for next week.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm gonna send you a master form that I use. If you want to use it, you can. It is kind of helpful. And basically what it is that it'll say, what are your wins for the week? What did you do different? What are the top 3 things you want to discuss today? So we can really get nitty-gritty down there. And then probably in a couple weeks, we're gonna look at pulling out the business plan layout and start calendaring some stuff.
Okay.
Okay. So if you want everything that I said, I kind of started recording a few minutes after we started, but I
Yeah.
can send this one to you if you want, or I'll
Yeah, so I can listen to the things you said a few times. Yes.
Okay, yeah, and so it's like just fast forward towards the last maybe 10, 20
And
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah. But I think that'll help at least feel like you're having some momentum moving forward, getting information ready. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Cool. So we're on the calendar, same time, same place next week.
Yes. The only thing I was gonna say is the week of the 13th or the 12th, really Sunday, that week is the week that we are away. So I won't be able to meet with you because we'll be away. March 13th.
March, I'm going because that's next week.
Yeah, no, March.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me go ahead and put that down. Okay, so the 14th basically is the day you will meet.
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is just put vacay in front of it. And I will go ahead and send that update so you'll know that we won't be meeting.
Well, I won't be checking my email, that for sure. I'm not gonna be doing, so I'm just gonna leave it be. But I wanted to, just so that before I forgot, and
Yeah.
it just comes up to let you know that, so you know that that's.
Okay. Yeah, well, it'll send the email now and it'll show that, I said you're vacay and everything, so, and then you don't have to worry about it after that.
Okay, all right, yes, I know what I'm doing, what to do, and it will be helpful to look back on it, and if you send me that sheet, I
Yeah.
can on it, that'll be good.
For sure. Okay. And then, of course, as always, every week, I want you to rest sometime. It'd be great if you could pick out even if it's a 15, 30-minute span for yourself where you do nothing.
I've been better at about that.
Good.
Yeah. So, okay,
Accountability is good, yeah,
yeah.
I know, trust me.
Well, I,
All right, well, cool. I'll get this recorded in recording. I'm gonna get it transferred into a YouTube. I'll send you the link. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just put it up in the folder and send you the invite to it.
okay, sounds good.
And I'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, have a good one.
You. Bye.
Bye.